This is the day the Lord has made. I'll rejoice
and be glad in it.
So according to Hebrews 13:4, of course, marriage is honorable in all, and the bed undefiled. Whoremongers and adulterers God will judge. However, the yea portion is the portion for us. Right. That's the portion we're holding fast on. So as we share our time of ministry, happily ever after. So that is what this time is called. So it's happily ever after. I'm Dr. James White. This is my beautiful bride, Dr. Terresa White. We're also known as Jacksonville's favorite couple. You better believe it.
Yes.
So in one of our previous segments, we shared a part of our testimony, so we're going to pick that up and share the other part in this one. If you want that part, you got to go look for it, find it, all that wonderful stuff. So It'll be called Testimony Part 1. So this one here is Testimony
Part 2.
So now with it, we're going to condense it. We're not sharing every aspect of it, but some of the meaty things. The reason why the Bible teaches us that we overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony. So the blood of Jesus Christ is essential. It is essential for us getting through difficult times, difficult situations. Our testimonies, they help build hope, they help build faith, and they also give a roadmap. How did God come through for you? How did God provide guidance and direction for you? You didn't know then what you know now. So you didn't use the same tools that you're currently using today. You didn't use the same principles that you know today. So what did God do for you then? Because oftentimes when we're going through a situation, we look to people who are more knowledgeable, more skillful than us, and we should. But we measure their current success by their current knowledge, and that's not the case. They are where they are because of the hand of God, and He came through in times past. And every time God comes through, it should be testified, this is His faithfulness, this is His commitment, this is His dedication. And we should never stop sharing how God has blessed us, how God has delivered us in every situation. So that's what what this time is for. That's what this segment is for, to build your faith.
Right. And so to pick up from the last segment that we did, we basically shared that very early out in our marriage, maybe about 3 or 4 years in our marriage had elapsed. And so we really weren't happy in the marriage, and we were secretly trying to kill each other. Now, if you want to know what Dr. James did, you're going to have to see that other video. But I'll share with you very briefly what happened on my end. And so I had said in the prior testimony that I just simply wasn't happy. I felt like the relationship was exhausted. I was done, and I did not want to be married to him anymore. And so we lived in Sicily. The environment was very different. We did not have a support system over there. We were not saved when this happened. Let me make sure you know, we were not saved when this happened. And we had both of our sons, and so we both were in the military.
Wait, now let's make it clear. This spanned over quite some time.
Yes.
So at one point we had just James during a very difficult season, turbulent season, and then Jasper was born.
Jasper was born over there. Jasper actually was born in Naples, and so Naples, Italy, and so that's a whole nother story.
Right.
But yes, it was an elapsed amount of time, and so our relationship continued to deteriorate.
Right.
And so we began to really just be really aggravated with each other, and we were really well. We did really well at causing problems, but we were terrible at resolving them. And so that's what got us to this point. At any rate, so he was secretly doing the things that he was doing, as was I. And so I worked in a hospital. I was a paramedic. The challenge was I had to stay and be on call 24 hours every 3 days, which was very taxing on our family. And so you had heard in the testimony with Dr. James that he basically had a very unstable work environment because he had to travel a lot. So he figured that he wouldn't get the kids. Well, there were a couple of things for me. The first one was that I was that paramedic.
Right.
You wanted to jump in?
Yeah. As it relates to divorce. So the first option for us was divorce. However, I was clearly aware that she wouldn't give me the kids because I asked her, and she said, "You losing your mind."
Right.
That's not the language she used, but y'all can fill in the blank. And likewise, there was no way on God's green earth I was letting her take my son.
Right. Which is what I was getting to that. And so with that in mind, I could not in good conscience feel like I wanted him to have the children. And based on our history, to me, he was too crazy and too unstable to have our sons. So just truth. So that was something that I was unwilling to do, and I really didn't want to have to deal with him unless I absolutely had to. Here's the other side to that. Because of his personality, I knew that he would not just let me take the children. So I needed to figure out a way to get rid of him. One of the things for me was that his life was so destructive, something could happen and everybody that knew him would not be shocked because he had such a destructive lifestyle.
That's so shameful. I did not uncover her.
But it was just true.
Oh God, that's shameful.
But it's important for you to understand my part of the testimony. So Dr. James, the Reverend, did not cook. I cooked everything. And so because I worked in the hospital.
I still don't cook today.
No, he doesn't. But because I worked in a hospital and I was a paramedic, I had access to a lot of different things. Well, the thing that was so crazy, I know that this was the hand of God. They were building a new facility where I worked. And so by the time I had come up with a way to get to him and to put him down permanently, that is, they had
like I'm a rabid dog in the neighborhood.
Euthanize him. But before I got to that, they had built this new facility and they locked the pharmacy, so I could no longer get into the pharmacy to get anything to poison him with.
Yay, God! Look at God.
Because my plan was to poison him, and so I knew he didn't cook. I knew that he would just eat whatever I made for him. But it was amazing how, by the time we got to that, whenever I would make a meal for him, if I sat down, if I didn't eat with him, he would feed it to our oldest son and watch me while he did it. So he'd get some food and go towards our baby and look at me, you know. So I had to kind of start restructuring some of the things that I wanted to do to him. There were several different things I wanted to do in the middle of cooking, but they simply weren't working. And I knew that it was just, I was stuck. So from poison to trying to get into the pharmacy, then I just figured I just got to leave him. But in the midst of that, I figured if we got into a fight, I could stab him because I had a little history in carrying weapons. Mm-hmm. And so I could not figure out how he could get close enough to me for me to do him in. Now, I knew I was going to have to fight in the process of it, but it still was going to work. But with you're laughing at me. But the poison, between the poison and weapons, it was terrible. It was really terrible. And so the Lord rescued us in that. And I knew that once he started feeding the food to our son, that plan was foiled. And so I was counting it up though. Lord knows I wanted to do it. I was trying to figure out maybe I could put something in his milk. You know, he was real funny about eating red foods, and so I couldn't put anything in his spaghetti. And then I heard that I could give him some insulin and he would kick the bucket. I couldn't get to the insulin. And so I remember one time distinctly being on 24-hour call and sitting next to the pharmacy for 4 hours. I had some colleagues that worked in the pharmacy and I was trying to get them to let me in the pharmacy, and of all nights, they would not do it. I was so disappointed.
Look at God.
Yeah. And but in that, the Lord rescued our relationship. And so I want you to know that you can have hope. You can find hope no matter what it is. And there are those places where the Lord will protect you and you don't even know that you're being protected. And that certainly happened with both of us. And so I want you to know that whatever it is you're facing, you can recover.
Right. So now it's important to know there were several things. We were not believers. Right. So as non-believers, if God is going to intervene, going to block, going to raise up people to make it difficult and virtually impossible for us to carry out the diabolical foolishness that we're planning, what more will he do for you?
Right.
So he's the same God. He's the same yesterday, today, and forevermore. So his faithfulness in our marriage is not limited to us.
Exactly.
And it's not about us. It is about his covenant. He sent Jesus to ensure that we would have a more abundant life, right. Not a regular life, not an average life or a basic life, not a worldly life, but a more abundant life. Even though we were not believers, he still wanted us to experience all that his love
right.
will provide for us. And the same is true for you today. So sharing where we came from. So now you don't get married to have problems. You don't get married to cheat. You don't get married to fall out. You get married to enjoy the rest of your life together.
Right.
However, in the midst of it, things can happen. So the person that I was in the midst of that, the person she was in the midst of that, was not the same person who stood there, looked into each other's eyes. Oh, I love you. I love you
said,
too.
I do.
I do.
Right.
That wasn't the same. So we had issues, we had situations, we had unsolved problems.
Right.
We had dreams that seemed like they were put on hold. We had frustrations.
Right.
And those things just began to mount. And the devil was whispering in her ear, was whispering in my ear, and he was consulting us.
Right.
As a result, we formed a life that was really embarrassing. I mean, it was just horrible.
Right.
There was no honor, there was no respect, there was
Right.
no dignity, none of that stuff. So you heard some of the things that she mentioned, and I kind of laughed at one of them because I do remember the whole knife thing, and it was just funny to me. I'm thinking, you can't beat me up. How you gonna stab me? I'm gonna slam your head. I'm gonna stump a mud hole into you.
He was good and stabbed, though, y'all. He was good and stabbed in my mind. He was good and stabbed. And what's really bad about it is I had these cast iron skillets. See, there's so much to these stories.
Right.
And unlike him, when you listen to his testimony, there were a lot of pieces that he planned out. I was living on the fly, man. I had a couple of things that were seriously planned out, but I mean, there were times when I would be cooking, I'd have a cast iron skillet and my knife in my pocket, and I'm like, in my mind, I'm measuring the distance. How close can he get for me to hit him with the skillet and stab him? I mean, just crazy.
I remember some of those because it was funny. It's like I'm looking at her. You know how a person will readjust their footing? And I'm like, what is she doing? Oh, she gonna try to hit me. This is the craziest,
He was gonna be wearing food. Now I didn't Al Green him. I wasn't thinking about pouring grits on him or nothing. But anything in that skillet he was gonna get burned, hit, then stabbed. I had it. I had it probably figured out as much as I could there. But the kid would have went to jail, and I'm way too cute to be in jail trying to stab and hit him with a cast iron skillet. That's so sad. It's so sad.
So with it, we simply share this to give you hope.
Yes.
Share this, and we're going to continue to share tools that are necessary.
Right.
So what you need to get from this is that we're real people.
Right.
We had real situations. We had real problems that God walked us through. So the way we handle situations now, when I say they are incredibly different, they don't even live on the same planet the way we did before.
That's right.
So rest assured, your situation has not gone too far. Not too much has happened.
Right.
God can still bring you out just like he did us.
Yeah.
So it is his covenant. It is his power that we're relying on.
Yes.
It's not our skill set. It's not our ability. It's not our good looks or our desire to make things work with each other.
Right.
It is what God has provided that we put all our confidence in. And likewise, the exact same thing will happen for you.
Exactly. And you heard me say this on previous videos, that everything that we do is Father filtered. Our relationship is Father filtered. Our lives are Father filtered. And so we want you to know that just like he rescued us, he rescued our marriage, he can rescue you, and he can rescue your marriage, and you two can live happily ever after.
So now if you have any comments, or not comments, but subjects that you'd like us to cover, please share it in the comment section. Share this video with your friends, your family members, those who are on your timeline. Help us get the word out. We want to make an impact in our world. Make it better, one marriage at a time. Blessings. Bye for now.
See ya.